By day, he was the neighborhood's most generous mechanic. By night, he was the city's most dangerous racer. Big Mike risked his life for every dollar he earned, spending it all in one place: his 7-year-old daughter's cancer treatment. This man's story brought the entire city to tears. Welcome to Stories of Black Lives. Before we dive into these powerful stories of respect, justice, and hope, please let us know in the comments which country you're watching from and your age. If you'd like to see more stories like this, hit that subscribe button. And please don't forget to like our video. On the south side of Chicago, in the small repair shop on Ashland Avenue, lights were on at 6 in the morning. Outside was a cold November morning, wind blowing mercilessly between the old buildings. Snow hadn't started falling yet, but there was that familiar chill in the air. Inside the garage, however, a warm atmosphere prevailed. Michael "Big Mike" Thompson had already been working for 3 hours, trying to finish the job he'd started in the early morning hours. 42-year-old Mike was a giant of a man, 6 feet tall, weighing 280 pounds. His arms were muscular, his hands enormous but surprisingly gentle. He'd been doing this work for 20 years and could identify an engine just by its sound. His hands were black with oil, his hair disheveled, sweat beads glistening on his forehead. But on his face was an endless gentle smile. This smile touched the heart of everyone who knew him. Because Mike's smile wasn't just on his face, it reached his soul. On the chest pocket of his dark blue coveralls, which read Mike's Auto Repair, Service for All, sat a small photograph. A picture of his 7-year-old daughter Zoe. In a pink ballerina dress, smiling, her dark brown hair braided, a beautiful little girl. The photo was worn at the corners because Mike looked at it hundreds of times a day. Every time he felt stuck, every time he got tired, every time he felt hopeless, he would look at that photo and find strength. In front of the garage was a small waiting area. Old couches, a coffee machine on a side table, and toys for children nearby. Mike wanted his customers to be comfortable, especially families with children, because he was a father himself and knew how impatient children could be. Starting at 7 in the morning, customers would begin to arrive. The first to come was usually elderly Mrs. Rodriguez, 70 years old, a kind lady of Spanish descent. She had an old 1998 Honda Civic. The car was so old it could almost be considered a museum piece. But for Mrs. Rodriguez, that car was life. Because with it she went to work, did grocery shopping, took her grandchildren to school. "Buenos dias, Miguel," Mrs. Rodriguez would say every morning. She called Mike by his Spanish name. "Good morning, Mrs. Rodriguez. How's the Honda?" Mike would always respond the same way. "Amiguito, last night it made strange noises. I'm afraid it's going to break down." Mike would smile. "Don't worry. Let me take a look at it." Mike would check Mrs. Rodriguez's car for free every time. Even when the woman protested, Mike wouldn't listen. "You're like a mother to me," he'd say. "You don't charge your mother, do you?" After Mrs. Rodriguez, young Ricardo would come. 23 years old, high school graduate, worked at a factory. He had a Kawasaki motorcycle, the only valuable thing in his life. Thanks to the motorcycle, he could get to work and visit his girlfriend. But the motorcycle constantly broke down. "Big Mike," Ricardo would say every time he came. "The Kawasaki broke down again." "What happened this time?" "It won't start. I tried to start it this morning. It wouldn't work." Mike would check the motorcycle, find the problem, repair it. When Ricardo wanted to pay, Mike would refuse. "You're a young man. Save your money. One day you'll open your own garage." After Ricardo, Pastor Williams would come. 60 years old, pastor of the neighborhood's small church. He had an old 15-passenger van. With this van, he'd pick up church members, take them to hospital visits, drive elderly people to grocery shopping. "Brother Mike," Pastor Williams would say, "the van is causing problems again." "What kind of problem, Pastor?" "The brake pedal feels stiff. I'm afraid it might cause an accident." Mike would immediately get to work. The church van was very important because it was the only transportation for the elderly in the neighborhood. When Pastor Williams offered money, Mike would shake his head. "Pastor, you do God's work. I do your work." In the evening hours, young couple Marcus and Tiffany would come. Newly married, both university students. They had an old Volkswagen Beetle, a wedding gift. The car constantly caused problems, but was very important to the couple. "Big Mike," Marcus would say, "the Beetle is smoking from the exhaust again. Probably an engine oil problem," Mike would say. "Bring it over, let me see." Mike would repair Marcus and Tiffany's car for free too. When the couple wanted to pay, Mike would smile. "You're a young couple. Save your money. You'll need it when you have children." "But Mike," Tiffany would say, "how do you get by like this?" Mike would always give the same answer: "God provides." But no one knew Mike's real story. No one understood why he was so generous to every customer, why he never asked for money, why he stayed late at the garage at night. And no one certainly knew what Mike did with his nights. The truth was that Mike himself was struggling with difficulties. But his struggles weren't as visible as his customers. Mike switched to a different life every evening after leaving the garage. That life was dangerous, illegal, and born from desperation. The story had started exactly 3 years ago. Mike was a normal mechanic then. He charged normal fees from customers, lived a middle-class life. He had a happy marriage with his wife, Sarah, and their little daughter, Zoe, was the center of their entire lives. Sarah was a nurse at Rush University Medical Center, working in the pediatric oncology department. Ironically, when faced with her own daughter's illness, that experience would both help and increase the pain. Mike and Sarah lived in a small but lovely house in Lincoln Park. 2 bedrooms, small garden, a happy family home. Zoe's room was painted pink, walls covered with princess posters. Her closet was full of ballet outfits, books, toys. Zoe was a healthy, smart, cheerful child. She went to ballet class 3 times a week, was the best in her math class. Every evening when her father came home, she'd run and hug him, telling him about her day. "Daddy," Zoe would say, "today in ballet class I did an arabesque." "Really, princess? Show me." Zoe would do ballet positions in the kitchen, and Mike would applaud. Sarah would watch this scene smiling, thinking about how perfect their family was. On weekends, the family would go to Lincoln Park Zoo, take boat rides on the lake. Zoe loved animals, especially penguins. "Daddy," she'd say, "when I grow up, I'll be a veterinarian. I'll heal sick animals." Mike would feel his heart swell with pride listening to his daughter's dreams. "Of course, princess. You can be anything you want." They had a middle-class life. Not much, but enough. Mike earned about $4,000 a month from the garage. Sarah's hospital salary was $3,000. $7,000 in family income managed by Chicago standards. House loan, car payments, insurance payments, Zoe's ballet lessons, grocery expenses. Everything was calculated, but they were happy. Then that terrible day came. March 15th, 2021, Monday. When Zoe came home from school, she had a fever. Her head hurt. She was vomiting. Sarah, being a nurse, wasn't worried, thinking it was simple flu. She put Zoe to bed, gave her fever reducer, made her drink plenty of fluids. But the next day Zoe's condition got worse. Her fever wouldn't go down. She was constantly vomiting. On the 3rd day, Sarah got worried. "Mike," she said, "we need to take Zoe to the hospital." "Don't exaggerate, Sarah. It's just flu." "Mike, I'm a nurse. This isn't normal." Sarah took Zoe to Rush Medical Center. In the emergency room, Dr. Peterson examined Zoe. Dr. Peterson, an experienced pediatrician, grew increasingly serious. "Mrs. Thompson," the doctor said, "we're going to run blood tests on Zoe. We need to do some tests." "What kind of tests?" "There's a condition I suspect, but let's wait for the test results first." The test results came 2 hours later. Sarah called Mike while waiting for the results. "Mike, we're at the hospital. The doctor is running tests." "What kind of tests? Is it serious?" "I don't know. Come here." Mike rushed out of the garage. When he arrived at the hospital, he found Sarah sitting in the waiting room, her eyes red from crying. "Sarah, what happened?" Sarah hugged him and began sobbing. "Mike, Zoe has cancer." Mike felt his world collapse at that moment. "What did you say?" "Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Blood cancer." Mike sank into a chair. "How? How is this possible? She's only 7 years old." Dr. Peterson called them into a small room and explained the situation in detail. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," the doctor said in a calm but serious voice, "Zoe has been diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. This is the most common type of cancer in children." "Will she die?" Mike asked, his voice trembling. "No. This type of leukemia is treatable in children. The statistics are hopeful. With proper treatment, there's an 85% chance of recovery." Sarah felt a bit relieved. "What kind of treatment?" "Intensive chemotherapy will be needed. It will last at least 2 years. 3 phases: induction, consolidation, and maintenance therapy. Bone marrow transplant will probably be needed too." "What's the cost?" Mike asked. Dr. Peterson hesitated. I'm sorry you have to ask this question. Total treatment cost will be between $400,000 to $500,000. Insurance will cover part of it, but there will be large amounts you'll need to pay. Mike felt his heart stop. How large amounts? Depending on your insurance situation. But on average, you'll pay $200,000 to $300,000 yourself. If bone marrow transplant is needed, the cost could increase even more. $200,000 to $300,000. Money Mike had never seen in his life, couldn't even imagine. He barely earned $4,000 a month from the garage. With Sarah's nursing salary, their monthly family income was $7,000. $84,000 a year. They could only earn this money in 3 years, without any expenses. When do we need to start treatment? Sarah asked. Immediately. This week. From that night on, Mike and Sarah's lives completely changed. They started Zoe's treatment the next day. The little girl was hospitalized. Chemotherapy sessions began. The first week cost $15,000. The second week, $18,000. The third week, $22,000. When Mike and Sarah returned home and calculated, they panicked. In just 3 weeks, they had $55,000 in debt, including the part insurance covered. The part insurance didn't cover was $35,000. Mike, where are we going to find this money? Sarah asked. I don't know. Let's get a bank loan. They went to the bank, wanting to take a home equity loan. Using the house as collateral, they could get an $80,000 loan. This money lasted 2 months. Then they didn't know what to do. Zoe's hair started falling out. Chemotherapy weakened her. She could no longer run and play. But the light in her eyes was still there. Even in the hospital bed, she tried to smile. Daddy, she'd say to Mike in her weak voice. I'm going to get better, right? Mike would feel his eyes well up. Of course, princess, he'd say. Daddy will make you better. I'll do everything. Daddy, why did my hair fall out? It's a side effect of the medicine, baby. But when you get better, it'll grow back more beautiful. Really? Of course. You'll have hair like a princess. Zoe would smile. Mike was dying inside. He had promised his daughter, but didn't know how to keep it. By the end of the 3rd month, Mike and Sarah's debt had reached $180,000. The home equity loan was finished. Credit cards had exceeded their limits. They had borrowed from relatives. There was no other way left. One night, Mike sat alone in his garage, calculating bills. Hospital bills, credit card debts, bank statements were piled on the table. The numbers were terrible. Their debts had reached $180,000. Zoe's treatment was only halfway done. Another $300,000 were needed for bone marrow transplant. Mike buried his face in his hands and began to cry. For the first time, he had lost hope. How would he find this money? His garage was already on the verge of bankruptcy because he didn't charge most customers. Sarah's salary wasn't enough for hospital bills. Just then, fast cars passed in front of the garage. Loud exhausts, bright headlights, music sounds. Mike looked out the window and saw a familiar scene, illegal street racing. In these races held at night in Chicago, big money was involved. Winners could take $10,000 to $20,000, sometimes even more. Mike knew about these races. He had participated a few times when he was young. It was very dangerous. It was illegal. If police caught you, it meant prison. If you crashed, it meant death. But winners earned big money. Mike shook his head. No, he said to himself. Too dangerous. What would Sarah say? What would happen to Zoe if her father died? But then he thought of Zoe's face. His little girl lying in a hospital bed, weakened, but still trying to smile. Daddy will make me better, right? She had asked. Mike had promised her. At that moment, he made his decision. To save Zoe, he would risk everything. The next night, Mike brought out his old Camaro from the garage. 1969 Model SS, restored by himself, a 500 horsepower beast. V8 engine, nitro system, racing setup. He hadn't touched it for years, but now the time had come. The Camaro's body was shiny black with yellow stripes. The interior was equipped with racing seats. Mike had bought this car when he was 20, worked on it for years. When he met Sarah, he had given it up. We have a family now, he had said. I won't deal with dangerous things. But now that dangerous thing was the only chance to save his daughter. He joined his first race on Cicero Avenue. The racing area was in the old industrial district, between abandoned factories. About 200 meters of straight road, then a curve. The first to reach the finish line would win. When Mike arrived at the racing area, his heart was beating fast. He hadn't done this for years. His hands were trembling, His mouth was dry. There were 15 cars participating in the race. Lamborghini, Ferrari, Porsche, modified tuner cars. The bet amount was $5,000. Entry fee was $1,000. New face, shouted the organizer. The one with the Camaro. What's your name? Mike. How much horsepower does your car have? 500. The racers around laughed. 500 horsepower? My Lumbo has 640, said one. Mike didn't answer. He took Zoe's photo from his pocket, stuck it on the steering wheel. His little daughter's smiling face gave him strength. The race started. Mike pressed the gas, and the Camaro shot forward. But the start was bad. Other cars were ahead of him. At the first curve, he was in 5th place. But Mike didn't panic. The Camaro's real power would show on the straight road. On the second straight road, Mike pressed the gas all the way. The Camaro's V8 engine roared. He activated the nitro system. The car shot forward like a rocket. 4th place, 3rd place, 2nd place. At the last curve, 1st place. When he crossed the finish line, Mike was crying. He had won $5,000. $5,000 for Zoe's treatment. After the race, other racers came to Mike. Did you build this Camaro yourself? Asked the Lamborghini owner. Yes. Are you a professional? I'm a mechanic. Wow. This engine is amazing. Are you selling it? Mike shook his head. No. This car is not for sale. That night when he returned home, Sarah was sleeping. Mike went to the hospital, entered Zoe's room. His daughter was sleeping. Mike put the money on the nurse's table and kissed Zoe's forehead. Daddy is healing you, princess, he whispered. I'll do everything. This became Mike's new routine. During the day, he worked at the garage, giving free service to customers. At night, he participated in races. Every dollar he earned went to Zoe's treatment. But this was very dangerous. There were police raids, cars crashed, sometimes racers got injured or even died. Months passed. Mike participated in 2 to 3 races every week, earning an average of $15,000 to $20,000. Zoe's treatment continued. Dr. Peterson was hopeful. Zoe is responding very well to treatment. We can start preparing for bone marrow transplant. But Mike was getting tired. Working at the garage during the day, racing at night, visiting Zoe at the hospital. His body couldn't take it. Dark circles under his eyes, constantly trembling hands, lost appetite. He had lost weight. His hair started turning gray. Sarah noticed the change. Mike, what's happening to you? You look very tired. Work stress, Sarah. Too much work at the garage. But you don't charge customers. How can there be so much work? Mike gave evasive answers. He couldn't tell Sarah about the races. His wife would worry. She would stop him. But Mike couldn't stop. He was risking everything to save Zoe. By the end of the 6th month, Mike participated in the big race. The race called Midnight Run. Chicago's most dangerous course, best racers, biggest bet, $50,000. But also the most dangerous race. On Lakeshore Drive, at midnight, through traffic. 5 people had died in the last 2 years. Mike got in the Camaro. Zoe's photo in his chest pocket, the latest bill from the hospital in his pocket. $280,000. His daughter's life. The cars participating in the race were even more savage. 700 horsepower Mustang, 800 horsepower Corvette, 900 horsepower modified Honda. Mike faced the city's most dangerous racers. Ice, the man who had killed a racer last year. Cold-blooded, ruthless, he would do anything to win. Venom, a nicknamed woman, a fugitive wanted by police. She was wanted for drug trafficking, but had never been caught. Ghost, a young man, a legendary racer who never lost. Mike seemed like an ordinary mechanic among them. Old clothes, tired face, but determination in his eyes. Other racers looked at him with disdainful glances. New kid, said Ice. This race isn't child's play. Don't you want to die? Mike looked at him. I'd rather die than watch my daughter die. Ice frowned. You have a daughter? Cancer patient. 7 years old. Other racers fell silent. Suddenly, Mike wasn't just a competitor for them, but a fighting father. When the race started, Mike was initially cautious. Lakeshore Drive was dangerous. Sharp curves, traffic lights, civilian cars. One mistake meant death. But then he looked at Zoe's photo. In his chest pocket, right next to his heart. His little daughter's smiling face. Daddy will make me better, right? Question. Mike pressed the gas. The Camaro shot forward with all its power. He was going 120 miles per hour on Lakeshore Drive. Other cars were passing him. He was passing them. At the first half, he was in 3rd place, At the second half, second. At the last curve, he was head-to-head with Ice. Ice tried to squeeze Mike to the edge of the wall. "Move over, mechanic," he shouted. But Mike didn't move. He thought of Zoe, his daughter lying in a hospital bed, weakened, but still trying to smile. In the last 100 meters, Mike took the lead. He crossed the finish line. He had won $50,000. Total $330,000. Almost enough for Zoe's transplant. After the race, Ice came to Mike. "Well done, mechanic. You're a real warrior." "Thank you. How's your daughter?" "Waiting for bone marrow transplant. This money will save her life." Ice nodded. "I understand. I became a father last month too. You do everything for a child." That night when he returned home, Sarah was awake. She was waiting for Mike. "Mike, where are you coming from?" "It's 3 in the morning." Mike hesitated. He couldn't hide it anymore. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." "What?" Mike told her everything. The illegal races, the dangers, the money he earned, the sacrifices he made for Zoe's treatment. Sarah was shocked first, then cried, then got angry. "Why didn't you tell me, Mike? Why did you hide it?" "Because you would worry. Because you would stop me. But I couldn't risk losing Zoe." "What if you die? What if Zoe loses her father?" "I won't die, Sarah. I'm being very careful." "Careful?" "Mike, this is madness. Illegal races. What if police catch you?" "If they catch me, they catch me. At least Zoe will live." Sarah hugged Mike tightly. "You're a crazy father. But I understand how much you love Zoe." "Sarah, will you support me?" Sarah thought for a long time. "On one condition. You won't go alone anymore." "I'm coming too." "What?" "No, Sarah. Too dangerous." "Mike, if you die, who will take care of Zoe? Who will make her payments?" "I'm a nurse. I know medical situations. I should be with you." From then on, Mike didn't go to races alone. Sarah came too. She watched the races, checked Mike's health condition, gave first aid when necessary. Because races weren't just dangerous for Mike. Other racers could get injured too. She helped them as well. 2 months later, the big day came. They had saved enough money for Zoe's bone marrow transplant. $400,000. Dr. Peterson set the surgery date. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson," the doctor said. "Zoe's condition is suitable for transplant. A donor has been found. We'll perform the surgery next week." Mike and Sarah cried with happiness. 3 years of struggle, hundreds of dangerous races, thousands of fearful nights. Finally, they had reached their goal. On surgery day, Mike was walking in the hospital corridor. Zoe's photo in his hand, hope in his eyes. Sarah was beside him, holding him tightly. The surgery lasted 8 hours. The longest 8 hours. When Dr. Peterson came out of the operating room, he was tired but smiling. "Successful," he said. "The transplant went perfectly. Zoe's body is accepting the new bone marrow. She'll recover." Mike fell to his knees at that moment and began to cry. 3 years of struggle, hundreds of dangerous races, thousands of fearful nights. It had all been worth it. Zoe would recover. But the story didn't end there. Zoe's transplant had been successful, but the recovery process would be long. She needed to stay in the hospital for 6 months, then long-term care at home. Mike quit racing, now staying home at night to be with his daughter. At the garage, however, things were getting difficult. He had spent most of his money on hospital bills. Very little was left for him. His tools were getting old. He couldn't pay the building rent. Electricity and water were about to be cut off. One day while Mike was working at the garage, Mrs. Rodriguez came. She wanted to repair her car, but had no money. "Mike, I know you're in a difficult situation. But if I don't have my car, I can't go to work, can't take care of my grandchildren. Please." Mike didn't hesitate. "Bring your car, Mrs. Rodriguez. I'll repair it for free." "But Mike, how will you get by like this?" Mike smiled. "We'll find a way. Zoe is recovering. That's enough." Word of Mike repairing Mrs. Rodriguez's car for free spread in the neighborhood. The news that he repaired Ricardo's motorcycle for free, that he fixed Pastor Williams's van for free. People began to wonder about Mike's situation. Pastor Williams came to visit Mike one day. "Mike, is what I heard from the neighborhood true? Was your daughter sick with cancer?" Mike nodded. "Yes, Pastor. But she's recovered now. She had a bone marrow transplant." "How did you find this money?" "You repair everyone's car for free at the garage." Mike hesitated, then decided. He told Pastor Williams everything. The illegal races, the dangerous struggle that lasted nights, the sacrifices he made to save Zoe. Pastor Williams's eyes teared up. "Mike, you're a real hero. But what will you do now?" You'll lose your garage. I don't know, Pastor. But it doesn't matter. Zoe is alive, that's enough. Pastor Williams stood up. No, Mike. This isn't enough. You've done so much for this neighborhood. Now it's time for us to help you. That weekend, Pastor Williams preached at church. He told Mike's story. The story of a father who risked his life to save his daughter. The story of a mechanic who gave free service to the neighborhood. Brothers, Pastor Williams said, there's a hero among us. Big Mike didn't just repair our cars. He repaired our hearts. He repaired our hope. Now it's time for us to repair his life. The church stood up and applauded. Throughout that week, neighbors organized. Every family would bring what they could: money, food, materials, labor. Saturday morning, while Mike was working at the garage, he heard sounds from outside. When he looked out the window, he was surprised. Neighbors had gathered in front of the garage. About 50 people, with bags, boxes, vehicles full of materials in their hands. When Mike went outside, everyone applauded. Mrs. Rodriguez came forward. Miguel, mi hijo, she said with tears. You've done so much for us. Now it's time for us to help you. Ricardo had $500 in his hand. Big Mike, my family is giving you the money they saved. You never let us down. Pastor Williams had brought the money collected from church, $3,000. Mike, church members are proud of you. Marcus and Tiffany, the newlywed couple, had brought part of their wedding gift money. Mike, you helped us at the beginning of our marriage. Now you're in a difficult situation. Old Mr. Johnson was an electrician. He had come to fix the garage's electricity for free. Mike, how many times did you repair my car for free? This is my thank you. Mrs. Garcia had brought food in pots. Miguel, you shouldn't go hungry. In this neighborhood, I cook for you like I cook for my family. Mike began to cry at that moment. He was crying from happiness, gratitude, love. For 3 years he thought he had struggled alone. But actually he was never alone. His neighborhood, his family, his friends had always been with him. Mike started, but words got stuck in his throat. Pastor Williams hugged him. You don't need to talk, Mike. You're our brother. Brothers support each other. That day a big work began at the garage. Men repaired vehicles. Women prepared food. Children played. By evening the garage was renewed. New tools, clean environment, organized materials. A new plaque was hung on the wall. Big Mike's Miracle Garage, service with love. Under the plaque was a small photograph. A picture of Zoe in her healthy state. Her pink dress, smiling face, healthy hair. And written beside it, Papa's Little Miracle. When Mike saw the plaque, he cried again. This is so beautiful. Thank you, Mike, said Mrs. Rodriguez. You're our miracle mechanic. But now we're your miracle family. 6 months later, Zoe completely recovered. At the doctor's control examination, he said completely clean. You can live like a normal child now. Zoe's hair had grown back. She started wearing pink ballerinas again, was getting the best grades in math class again. Mike's garage also grew. People from all over the city came because neighbors had heard his story. But Mike didn't change his principles. He still gave free service to those in need. A year later, Mike gave an interview on local television. The program, titled Miracle Mechanic, How Love Saved Everything, was watched throughout Chicago. Mr. Thompson, the interviewer, said, how do you justify participating in illegal races? Mike thought, I don't justify it. It was wrong. It was dangerous. But my daughter's life was in danger. As a father, I couldn't sit with my hands tied. Do you regret it? I only regret one thing: hiding it from my wife and community, trying to struggle alone. Actually, there were wonderful people around me who supported me. What are you doing now? I'm working at my garage. My daughter is healthy. My wife is happy. My neighborhood supports me. What more could I want? We heard you're organizing help campaigns for other children too. Yes. We established Zoe's Hope Foundation. We provide financial support to families of children receiving cancer treatment, because no family should experience the desperation we lived through. 2 years later, Mike received an offer from the city. A big automotive company wanted to hire him as chief engineer. They offered $150,000 a year. But Mike refused. Why? Sarah asked. Because my place is here. There are people in this neighborhood waiting for me. There are cars that need free repair. And, he said, looking at Zoe, my family is happy here. Zoe was now 10 years old. She had become a healthy, beautiful, smart girl. She continued ballet lessons, won awards in math competitions. Daddy, Zoe said one day, You saved me, didn't you? Mike smiled. No, princess. You saved me. You gave us hope. You saved all of us. When I grow up, I want to save people too. How do you want to do it? I'll be a doctor. I'll heal children with cancer. Like you did for me, I'll do for them. Mike hugged his daughter tightly. You're a very special girl, Zoe. You can be anything you want. 3 years later, Zoe's story became a children's book. The book, titled Papa's Racing Heart, told about the sacrifices her father made for her. Income from the book was donated to the Cancer Foundation. Today, Big Mike still works at the same garage. Zoe is 15 years old, a healthy, beautiful, smart young girl. She's in college prep class, excelling in math and science. She still does ballet, but now also teaches little children. Daddy, Zoe says, I'm preparing for medical school. Like you did for me, I'll do for sick children. Mike smiles with pride. Whatever you want, princess. But know that you're already my greatest achievement. That plaque still hangs on the garage wall. Big Mike's Miracle Garage, service with love. And every time a customer comes, Mike tells them his story. Sometimes, Mike says, life gives you seemingly impossible challenges. But as long as love exists, nothing is impossible. I race for my daughter. But actually, it was love that was racing. Mike doesn't race anymore, but he still keeps the Camaro. Every year on Zoe's recovery anniversary, he brings it out and drives around the neighborhood with his daughter. Daddy, Zoe says, this car saved me, didn't it? Mike smiles. No, princess. This car was just a tool. What saved you was love. Our love. This story teaches us that true heroism isn't hidden just in superpowers, but in love. A father's sacrifice for his daughter, a man's value for his neighborhood, a family's embrace of each other, a community's support for its individual. These change the world. If you see someone like Big Mike around you, thank them. If you find yourself in such a situation, don't lose hope. Because love always finds a way, always creates a miracle.